welcome to Choices Global, a production of First Assembly of God, Workmanville, Georgetown, Guyana. On this program, we curate and cultivate conversations pertinent to nation building. And our session today will be part of a planned family and marriage series. Our topic, faith and forgiveness as we navigate conflict in marriages. Our panelists today are an awesome group of three couples, Neil and Audrey Corey. They are heads of the Family and Marriage Department at First Assembly of God, and they have been married for 41 years. We have Lorex and Samantha Edwards, a vibrant young couple who play a critical part in coordinating many of our marriage retreat events, and they minister in the Sunday school and children's ministry. And what an awesome opportunity they have to instill the values of good marriages to our youths that are coming up. They have been married for 16 years and they all reside in Guyana alongside Kurt and I. The Corbins, also part of the Family and Marriage Department, and married for 17 years. We reside in Geneva, Switzerland, and we want to welcome our panelists and welcome you, our viewers, to Choices Global. Now, let's reflect on marriages and its importance rather to societies. Someone said that getting married is like buying something you have admired in the window of the store for a long time. You love it, but when you get it home, it doesn't always go with everything. And yet, biblical principles declare three words to us in Romans. It says, live in harmony. And so, since today's topic will be about conflict, I want to invite our panelists and our viewers to stay on those three words, live in harmony, because this is what we hope that we will share as we reflect and interrogate how we navigate conflict. So, to you, Audrey, and to Neil, I'll start with you, Audrey. Could you tell us, from your perspective, two ways in which the family unit is important to societal formation?
Wonderful. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on this so very important topic, family and its benefit to society. Now, we talk of family and we remember what the Word of God says in Genesis. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and cleave to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. So it started with God. He knew and he knows what's best for us. A society is built on families. Families make up the fabric of that society. And however the family goes, that's how the society will go. So we want to look at what benefit there is to families. Now there's a scripture that says in Psalms, God set the solitary in families. Why did he do that? Because he saw the benefit of family. Try living on your own. Try doing everything on your own, and you'll see that it doesn't work. You need help. You need support. You need encouragement. Lots of things. And families provide that very important ingredient to the individual. So let's look at the individual, for example, who is a part of a family. That person may have issues. Who do they discuss it with? The family. The family is the support that you need, the encouragement, the backup that you need in your own personal life. And you always will want to go home to talk to family members about issues that you face and what kinds of advice you can get from them and so on. So the importance of family is that they provide a safety net for the individuals who make up that family. They are the ones who are there to buffer you in times of stress and issues that arise that you probably cannot navigate yourself by yourself. So family is so very critical. And if a family can succeed, then a nation will succeed. If the families within the society are able to navigate life and are succeeding in what they are doing, then that society is going somewhere. Remember when we did our family month, we had a slogan, our theme, for example, it said, "Flourishing families, flourishing society." So this is how we wanted you to understand that without if the family, the fabric that makes up that family, all right, each member of that family now is going to benefit because of what makes up that family, makes up that. So each member makes a contribution and receives benefits from that family.
Wow. Well, I'm going to put Lorex on the spot, but what I'm hearing from, and Lorex, the question that I'm coming to you with is how has your marriage contributed to developing your family? How did that play out? But what I'm hearing from Audrey is unity. I'm hearing productivity because a family is supposed to produce good citizens and so on, and it's also for security, so that together, when we're in times of stress and trouble, we come together. But Lorex, what's your thought on the value of family, and maybe how it has impacted you in your experience as a married person or in your larger family?
Thank you, Javon, for having me and Samantha on the program. It's such a pleasure being here. Listening to Corey, I think that she encapsulate everything. She put everything together there. So you shouldn't be asking me that question. But nevertheless, family is integral to society. In fact, long before the church, politicians, and political institution, God established the family. That's the first institution God sets up in, and that is the family. So that says a whole lot of how important it is that family plays such an important role in society. Because if the family goes left, the communities also go left. So it's integral to make sure that our families are stable and functioning, starting with the head, uh, being the man. And we know in society that might be a little controversial because everybody wants to be the head. But there's a great responsibility that comes with being the head. There's a great responsibility that comes with being the foundation because without the foundation, and without the head, we have a lot of problems. And in this discussion, we'll continue to focus our attention on how we can better this institution called family.
Awesome, Lorex. I think to the viewers, I want to posit that while we start off with families, we can see that marriages are actually the initial step that allows us to birth a family. And so, as we continue to reflect on biblical principles, I want to ask a question to anyone. How does harmony show up in our marriages? Because if we want to talk about conflict, we should first start celebrating what harmony looks like. So, Neil, maybe you can tell us, what does harmony look like in your marriage or in the marriages you see in your community? And Samantha, I'll come to you next.
Thank you for inviting me to this session. What I just would like to share my points of view on the situation as regards to marriage, what marriage is all about. You see, people want to get married because they know marriage is a good thing. But there are a lot of factors that will be needed to assist this marriage to become what it ought to become. It calls for a lot of selflessness, which may be preferring one another. And you have to be able to make sacrifices because you got to remember that no one is perfect. We all have our faults. We all have our weaknesses. We all have our strengths. And it's for you as a couple coming to get married to understand what you have to deal with, what the background you come from. Because whatever your initial state come from, that is what will show up in your relationship. If not now, then later on. You see, home is where children learns. The first institute of learning is at home. And based on what children see at home is what they become to their generation. If they see mistreating in the family, that's what we can to their generation, because they learn from home. Home is the place where learning starts from, not school and the teacher. Learning starts from home. So the parents are the one responsible to give guidance and direction to family. And the family must be able to know to relate. It calls for a lot of communication. You have to spend quality time with each other. You don't work according to imagination and what should happen and what you think should happen. You can only do what you know. And if you don't know something, you wouldn't do it. As you live and cleave, you're working towards a oneness to bring within a family relationship, which means in order for you can't just be able to go in depth to find out situations, what your spouse accustomed to. And you have to give up some of your customs, adjust it to suit your spouse in order for things to run how it ought to be. You cannot put your ways. You got to be able to make that initiative of make changes to adjust one another. You feel comfortable when your spouse is comfortable. Your spouse feels comfortable when you're happy. That's how they build, and not to be carried away with because it didn't happen your way. You act on this type of thing. There's a basis of which families should be. The Bible is a manual for life and living. The Bible gives you good guidance to what the family life ought to be. And anything you want to know about life and living, you can find it listed in that manual, the Bible. So that is one of the first thing you got to learn. God is the one who is responsible for marriages. And he will keep marriages, not you. He got to be able to, because if your spouse is stubborn and don't want it, prayer can cause things to happen. And if you have a relationship with your Heavenly Father, things can be different. So it's for you to meet to that place first of all and understand God for who He is, and realizing that you cannot make your spouse to become what they must become. God got to intervene and they want to change in order for this thing to become what God. Marriage is a God thing. So the principles of God in marriages should be enlisted from what they come from the Bible. So that's the first step of guidance that you need for this marriage that you're committing yourself to.
Awesome. I like that. Marriage is a God thing. Samantha, how does harmony show
It's a
up
God thing.
for you?
Thank you, Siobhan. In my marriage, harmony shows up in, I can think of two ways, and that is communication and constant communication. Between Larks and I am the parrot and he is the introvert. So for me, I find it very harmonious when we can have simple conversations and not just the maintenance one, like did you pay the bills or did you feed the dog? But when we can reflect on our day and what is troubling us or any issue that we're thinking on and just share it openly. That for me is considered a very harmonious setting. And another thought that comes to mind is when we can share on our faith. We are both two individuals who would be considered faith based, and we both believe in the same Savior. So, whenever we can have that time together of fellowship or discuss issues that is synonymous with our faith or help each other as we prepare for our lessons, like you mentioned earlier, we both involved in children ministry. So, that for me is harmonious. And on the lighter side of things, if we can have an opportunity to just sit back and enjoy a nice romantic comedy, or well, I like animated movies, if I can get him to sit and relax with me and watch one, or if we can go out. I also like fine dining, he too. So those little things on the lighter side for me contributes to harmony in my family. For others it may be different, but those are the three things that come to mind when I think of harmony in my marriage, or our marriage I should say.
I love it. It means you're owning this marriage, all right? So that is awesome, and I think that is the birthplace of loving relationships. Go ahead. You look like you want to respond and add some more harmony, Lorex.
Yeah, I like to add to harmony discussion. It speaks to oneness, togetherness, and agreement. And I want to own this whole part of this harmony in terms of we uh, being able to exercise projects together and coming to a consensus. And you know, that is a big thing where be building, and I want a bigger room and you want a smaller room, put that over there and put that over here. If we can come together, come to consensus, okay, let us meet half and half. You could have a little more here and you could have a little more there. There comes harmony in full demonstration.
I like. Can I
Awesome.
jump in, Madam Moderator? I like that harmony. As you can see, I'm excited. I want to look at harmony, as Samantha said, from the standpoint of attitude. We can look at it from various standpoints, as we just heard, to our speakers out there. But I would like to look at it from attitude. One way we can have a harmony is based on a spouse, husband or wife attitude towards each other. A man, and I would add a woman, must treat with his wife according to knowledge, or the person must treat with his spouse according to knowledge. So Lorexus gave an example of building. I also want to give an example of finance. Now, both of you may be into finance, or one of you may be into finance. So, with that, one person would yield when we're doing our budget, when we're doing our debt planning. A lot of times we don't speak about debt in marriages, but debt is real, and sometimes we get into debt for varying reasons, but we're in debt. So maybe one person may have an idea of how to come out. So your attitude towards listening to your partner, your spouse, in developing a plan and action in that plan is important. So if you think maybe you may even be the one who got us into debt and you're trying to get the person out of debt, and you wouldn't listen, you wouldn't accept that, oh, I was wrong, you wouldn't say sorry, you won't show any remorse. So your attitude will lead to disharmony because we're trying to solve a problem that is affecting both of us. I have an idea, you have an idea, but one of us is not listening to each other. No one wants to take a step back. So your attitude for me is very important in how we go forward in this harmonization process, in this oneness, as Audrey mentioned earlier. From the beginning, we were made one in marriage. So your attitude towards this oneness, your attitude towards the chores we do at home, is it woman chores or man chores, or is it our chores? How do you see yourself in this relationship? How do you see yourself in this marriage? So, am I the man? Am I the one earning? Is she the one? Am I the woman? Am I the one earning more than you? Attitude. How do you make the other person feel, your other partner feel? So, for me, harmony has to do with us, one of us or both of us taking a step back and finalizing a plan, coming up with a plan and finalizing a plan about how we go forward together in unity and harmony, in oneness. So, attitude for me is a big thing in getting to this harmonization process, and it's going to take our entire marriage to get there. Siobhan.
Wow.
I would like to,
Well, Kurt,
I would
I
like to
heard you
make a
say, sorry, just a moment. So, Kurt, I heard you say that you treat according to knowledge. I just want to know how much knowledge you need to treat with Chevron. Anyhow, that's for another segment. um, I see Neil, go right ahead. 2 minutes, and then we move on to our next question.
that is a very important factor in the relationship, knowing where you want to go and be able to make the necessary adjustment to accommodate one another for you to move forward the way you have to go. You can't be pulling from one another. I want this and I want more of that. No, 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 no. It have to come on a level playing field where we say, this is best for our relationship. That's the way you will move forward positively to get things the way it ought to be done. And what you're doing, remember, is not for self. Selfishness is gone when marriage comes into place. Selflessness, preferring one another, feeling comfortable and happy when your spouse is comfortable and happy, and you're doing the things to accommodate your spouse, so to be able to continually get the best out of the relationship. That is some of the main factors in the relationship.
Wow. Wow. I mean, I heard from Audrey from oneness. I heard from Neil, foundation principles. I heard from Samantha celebrating our harmony, celebrating us as husband and wife. I heard from Lorex, compromise. And I heard from Kurt, attitude. And I think these are some of building blocks of a harmonious marriage that we oftentimes need to normalize in a conversation, because the world shows us too much of conflict, too much of disagreement, too much of not being able to reconcile to that oneness that was intended by the biblical foundation. But let us move on. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, the number one reason that people give for divorce, and I think we're shifting, and I think that speaking of divorce is not calling it into being, it's actually preempting. So let's give a preemptive strike so that we empower our viewers to reflect and avoid the root causes. But they say the number one cause of divorce is that we are not we are incompatible. And then I heard someone say on a very interesting program that actually incompatible is a word that divorce attorneys have given us as the reason so that we can separate. And really, what we are is not that we're incompatible, we're actually inflexible, because every person comes with different values, different upbringings, and different desires, and yet we come together and we should be one. So, can we shift and talk a little bit about conflict? And Audrey, I'll start with you. Can you say how we can manage conflict in relationships and maybe identify sometimes when conflict is actually a positive and not a negative? How do we navigate conflict in relationships?
You mentioned the word incompatible, and then you said inflexible. And I want to agree that that word incompatible, it's used when people just want to do their own thing. So they say, well, we're not compatible and all that. What happened before you actually came into this relationship? What happened before you got married and you started living together? Weren't you compatible before that? What happened? So I just wanted to ask that question, and we can think about it. But conflict arises out of disagreement, and every marriage, I believe, faces disagreement, faces conflict. If a disagreement persists, for me, and it cannot or is not being resolved, conflict results. So we have a couple not agreeing on something and not being able to work through to be able to share with each other whatever it is that it would result from this and be happy and be comfortable about it. So we have disagreement, all right? It's not resolved, it festers, it grows, then we have conflict. Because what happens is that after we have disagreed, after we have not, and there's so much to say about this because we heard about communication just now. And it's so important, the word communication is so important that we understand that we have to talk to each other. If we have a disagreement, how do we resolve it? We have to talk. We have to talk. And we have to give each other space, time to talk. Each one of us has something to say, and we must not shut the other person down because we think that what we are saying is what is important and what is right. So we have to be able to talk with each other if we disagree, and we will disagree. We must be able to talk with each other and we must be able to listen to each other. Just imagine you and I have a disagreement and we are talking now about it. And I am prepared to listen to you, to hear you out on the points that you want to make. And when you have done that, then you now are going to listen to me and the points that I want to make. What happens there is that we begin to learn some more about each other. There are things that we didn't quite understand, but now that we're listening to each other, we are hearing what each other is saying and even not saying. We're feeling how that person is feeling. And so we are beginning to come to a place where we will be able to agree. So here it is, we are talking with each other and we are sharing our own heart and how we understand the problem, how we interpret it and how it can affect us. And my spouse is saying the same thing and seeing that I'm seeing his side of it. And when we've done with that, we've got a lot more than we started out with. So we have more to work on. And we are in a better position now to agree because we understand each other a little more, and the problem that we have, we understand it a little more because we were able to explain how we saw it, each one of us, and then as we come together. So it's so important that we don't come to a place where we have conflicting ideas all the time. We have disagreements, we must be able to work through them, and we must not come to a place where there's conflict in this relationship all the time. Because what happens with conflict? We begin to say things that we should not say. We begin to hurt each other. We begin to offend in many ways. And what happens is that people begin to feel that, well, I'm not part of this anymore. I don't want to be part of this because we cannot agree on this. And this is not where we want to go in our marriages. We want to be able to resolve our conflicts. We want to be able to talk with each other and be civil about it. We want to be respectful. And many times when conflict arises, respect goes through the window. People begin to disrespect each other. People begin to say things and do things to demonstrate their disrespect. And people begin to hurt more. So we move from just the disagreement to conflicting things, that we begin to say things that hurt each other. And then we begin to maybe go further than that, maybe even make it physical. So we don't
That's
want to get
true.
to that point. We want to be able to resolve our issues, and be able to live, harmoniously. And in the process of doing that, learning a whole lot more about each other and understanding how we ought to be able to treat each other.
Wow, wow. What I'm hearing is communication will counter conflict. Kurt, as my co moderator, I hand over to you for any reflections or questions.
Oh, thank you, Siobhan. The program, as we all expect and we know, it's going wonderfully. But I would like to build on what Audrey said about conflict. And I'll pose this question to you, Samantha, and maybe Lorex also can posit a few responses or a response. What are the root causes of conflict? Or can you tell me three top three top challenges you think will result in conflict or could result in conflict in marriages? If you can give me two, or the rest can give me two, but I will start with you first, Samantha.
Okay, ladies before gents. Thank you. I have a lot to say, but I'll say it briefly. To answer your question, Kurt, I personally believe that the top two reasons for conflicts in marriages are miscommunications and unmet expectations. And the reason for that is because a lot of times when we communicate, and I'm speaking from a personal standpoint here, what you say or what you intended to get over to your partner, that's not what they hear or they receive. And so there's a bickering that occurs until when you narrow it down, then you realize that that is not what I intended to communicate, or the other partner would say, that's not what I heard. Okay. And if I should give a brief example, just before we were preparing for this program, I asked my beloved husband to help me set up. And when I noticed the time was going, he said to me, I did not hear you say help you set up. So therein, I'm thinking, where did I went wrong? What words did I mince, right? But that's a classic example. Conflict could have arose there because of the unmet expectations, where I expected him to help me set up for this recording, and he didn't. Okay, so that's to answer your question. That's the two factors that I think contributes most to conflicts in marriages. If I should touch a little on what Siobhan asked about or mentioned about compatibility, I would like to make a provocative statement to say that all marriages, or in all marriages, there are some amount of incompatibility among the two partners, because while we're working to gel and become one, we are not there. For instance, like I mentioned earlier, I'm a parrot. My husband is more of an introvert. One can argue that we are incompatible, but I think the root thing is we both want our marriage to work. So despite we are incompatible in that area, we are continuously working on becoming one in terms of the communication. And that is what I've learned to do, is shut up a little or speak a little less. And I've noticed that he, I've also learned to speak a little more with me, reach out a little more. So I am not so much in, I don't believe too much that this thing about incompatibility. Maybe there are some areas that are very strong or more uh, unresolvable, if there's something like that, that probably make people say that they're incompatible. And in terms of dealing with conflict in just 30 seconds, I find what works is talking about it outright and not, as we would say in Guyana, beat around the bush. Let the issue be known, because a lot of times when you raise it, then you realize that the person may have a different understanding, or they may bring something different to the table that you did not factor in. So for me, what works is bringing it out in the open, talking about it, and also listening to understand what is it the person is saying, what is their point of view, and not just trying to win. Early in the marriage, that was it. You want to win the argument or the conflict. But as I matured, I've learned to accept that it's not about winning, it's understanding the other person's point of view and seeing how we can gel. Now, I said 30 seconds, so I'll end here.
What I'm hearing is
That,
that you've removed ego. Yes, Lorex, 1 minute. I'm hearing you've removed your ego. That's a big thing for some of us. I'm hearing you're actively listening. I'm hearing you're making an effort. And what I'm hearing, I'll
Yes,
apply my word, is that you adjust your attitude because you want something
yes.
to work. You want your marriage to work. Lorex, you go as we prepare to wrap up. Thank you.
that's, my two would be financing in marriages and lack of intimacy. Those two I want to put towards discussion. And early in our marriage, we were really catch up. In fact, when we started, I only could have contributed towards the rent, and it put a strain on our marriage. And what I want to encourage our viewers, is marriage is a process. Stay with it. Stay with it. And if you stay with it, if you hold fast to it, or you can also say, we all go through seasons in marriages. And in the Guyanese context, we have two seasons, rain and sun, and no season is permanent. No season lasts forever. So if we stay with it, eh, things will change. And today we are in a better place. All because we stayed with it. We didn't throw in the towel, call it quits, because we understand that this is for the long run. It's not a cake shop. Today we open and tomorrow we close down. We stay with it. We see it to fruition. We see it to the end of the tape because we believe strongly in marriage.
Wow.
I was
Lorex,
waiting
I
to
want
hear
Thank
to
the
you.
refrain. Go ahead.
I was waiting to hear the intimacy part.
Let's say that that will be for the next segment. So I, like you, Samantha, I
Okay,
want to hear,
okay.
but I I want to reframe Lorex's comment. He wasn't cash strapped when he got married. We are all cash strapped when we start out in this journey, unless we had the proverbial gold spoon. So I love that point, Lorex, because it's a message to our viewers, especially our younger viewers, as you contemplate marriage or you are right now in that first or second year of the journey, that as we talk about conflict, we wanted to raise it because this is the reality. We get into it. We understand it's about oneness, or as I say, unity. It's about productivity because we have goals. Neil spoke about that. We agree on common goals, so we need to be productive. So for me, productivity, and then there's security because when I'm falling short, Kurt picks up. I promise the kids, oh, mommy's going to make you a wonderful meal. And then my husband will come at the end of the day with the ingredients because I didn't get that far to thinking that, I needed to go to the supermarket. So, security doesn't let me feel bad. And I want to posit another one, which is trust. This morning, Kurt brought a surprise to me. And before I could enjoy the gift, the first thing I asked is, what did it cost? Because, yeah, that is the finance manager in me. But he says, don't you trust me? And immediately I had to apologize because he's saying, hey, we've been through this journey, we've been talking about our finances, and we have the same shared interest. So trust that the decision I made. So now, could you enjoy the gift? And so, thank you, Kurt. Let me express this kind of love right here. But I want to now take the opportunity to wrap up. And as I wrap up, I want to really thank all of our panelists for a lively discussion. I know that you have not had enough time to share all that is on your heart, but that's why this is a series. And so there will be other segments. So, you viewers, stay tuned. I also want to celebrate the fact that Kurt and I, we refreshed our marriage vows in Cana in Israel back in April. It was just about 3 weeks ago. And the Edwards were there with us. And I'm pretty sure the Corey, they have done it many times before. Why am I celebrating this? Because it's important that we focus a lot on the harmony that can come out of marriages when we refresh and when we do things that keep our love and our connections growing. If we don't water it, it won't grow. If we don't water our marriages, they won't grow. They won't be productive. They won't be secure. They won't be harmonious. And so I want to also remind our viewers that communication can be the counter for conflict. This is what I heard our speaker saying. So again, thank you. And to our viewers, thank you for joining this episode. Please keep in touch with us as we direct you to our website, which is at faogw.org, or you can view us on our YouTube channel, Choices Global. Join us again on the 28th of May at 5 p.m. for another episode. I am Chevon Corbin alongside my lovely husband, Kurt Corbin, as your moderators for today, encouraging you to write positive stories about your marriages and your family. This is Choices Global.